I used to dream about my wedding day. Not the big things, like the dress or the cake, but the feeling, that floating, glowing moment when I'd walk down the aisle and know, deep in my bones, that this was the start of forever. And for a few seconds, I had it. The sun filtered through the garden trees, spilling gold over the white roses lining the aisle. Guests turned in their seats as soft music began to play. My dress hugged me just right. My hair stayed in place. My heels didn't wobble. And as I stepped forward, heart pounding, hand clutching my bouquet, I saw him. Daniel, my fiancé, standing at the altar in a charcoal gray suit, tie perfectly straight, eyes locked on me like I was the only thing in the world. I smiled. He smiled. And for a moment, everything felt perfect. But not everything was. In the second row, I spotted her. My sister, Emily. She looked wrong.
Pale.
Fidgety. Her eyes kept darting around, never meeting mine. I told myself she was just nervous for me. That's what sisters do, right? Worry, feel things deeply. So I smiled at her too. I had no idea she was holding a bomb behind her back. I reached Daniel at the altar, took his hand. He squeezed gently, and the officiant started speaking. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. I barely heard the words. My heart was thudding so loud in my chest, I thought everyone could hear it. This was it. This was finally happening. Then the moment came. The part you always hear in movies. The one that's supposed to mean nothing. If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. A chair creaked. I turned toward the sound. Emily was standing. A soft gasp rolled through the crowd. Then a hush. Even the birds seemed to stop chirping. I stared at her, confused. She looked like she might faint. Her voice shook. I'm
sorry, she said.
But I have to say this. My stomach dropped.
No. Please, no.
I'm pregnant, she said. And Daniel is the father. Silence exploded into chaos.
Gasps.
Screams. A woman near the front dropped her purse. Someone shouted, "What?" I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Daniel didn't say a word. He just stood there, eyes wide, looking at the ground like he was hoping it would swallow him whole. My legs gave out. The world spun. I felt someone grab me, my mom. She tried to steady me, but her face wasn't shocked. It was sad, but not surprised. Emily broke down, crying right there in front of everyone. Hands over her face, shoulders shaking. Daniel finally looked at me. Not with guilt, not with an apology, with fear, like a man who had been caught. I don't remember falling, but I remember the sound my bouquet made when it hit the ground.
Soft.
Like a thud muffled by petals. And then the veil slipped from my head. Slow motion, like in a movie. Petals blowing in the wind. Guests whispering. Some filming. Some walking out. And me, standing there in my dream dress, alone, humiliated, betrayed by the two people I thought I could trust most. My fiancé. And my own sister. I didn't cry. Not then. There wasn't even enough room inside me to feel it all yet. It was like the entire world had gone silent. Like someone had hit mute on my life. I just stood there, heart cracked wide open, watching my perfect life collapse like a house of cards. And all I could think was, this can't be happening. This isn't real. This isn't how it's supposed to end. But it was happening. And this was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Back in my childhood bedroom, the one with the peeling glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling and the creaky closet door, I just lay there, eyes wide open, staring into nothing. The wedding dress was gone. So was the veil. All of it stuffed into a bag in the corner like trash after a party. But I still felt it on me. The weight, the shame, the silence. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text after text from guests. Some said, "I'm so sorry." Others said, I can't believe she did that to you. A few asked, is it true? I didn't answer any of them. The group chat with Daniel's side of the family had gone quiet. My best friend Lena had called 3 times. I didn't pick up. I couldn't. I had nothing to say. And Daniel? Not a single word. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a pathetic apology. After everything, after us, he disappeared into thin air. I finally dragged myself out of bed around noon. My face was puffy from crying. I felt hollow. Downstairs, my mom was making tea like it was just any other Sunday. She glanced at me and said, "You should eat something." That's all. No hug. No how are you? No I can't believe what Emily did. Just tea and toast like we were strangers. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the counter. My sister's coffee mug was still there. Pink, with Boss Babe printed on it. I gripped the edge of the chair so tightly my knuckles turned white. I needed answers. I needed anyone to act like what happened mattered. But the silence in that house was so loud, it felt like it might crush me. Later that night, I overheard my mom talking on the phone. She didn't know I was standing outside her door. She whispered, "At least it's out now, maybe this was for the best." My stomach dropped. For the best? My entire world just collapsed, and she was treating it like a relief? That's when it hit me. They weren't shocked. Not one person in that house acted surprised when Emily made her little announcement. Which meant they knew. Maybe not all the details. But they knew something. And still, they let me walk down that aisle. Still, they let me believe I was about to start a new life. Still, they let me stand there like a fool in front of everyone. I ran back upstairs and locked the door. I buried my face in the pillow and screamed until my throat burned. Not just from heartbreak. Not just from betrayal. But from this deep, suffocating feeling that I didn't matter. Not to Daniel. Not to Emily. Not even to my own parents. I was just forgettable. Invisible. The one they all walked over to get where they wanted to go. And as I lay there, curled up in a ball, something inside me shifted. The pain was still there. But underneath it, something colder started to grow. I didn't have the words for it yet. But it wasn't sadness anymore. It was the beginning of something else. 1 week later, I wasn't in that house anymore. I was on Lena's couch, wrapped in one of her oversized blankets, with a chipped mug of coffee I barely touched. Her apartment was small, but safe. It smelled like vanilla candles and fresh laundry, things I hadn't felt in days. Lena didn't ask a lot of questions. She just gave me space, food, and tissues when I needed them. That was more kindness than I'd gotten from my entire family combined. But even with her kindness, I felt like a ghost. I kept replaying it all in my head. The vows we never finished, the way Daniel didn't speak, the look on Emily's face before she stood up. Every time I blinked, I was back at the altar. Back in that moment. Still hearing her words. I'm pregnant. And Daniel is the father. I hadn't seen Emily since that day. But I saw her everywhere else. On Instagram, she posted a blurry sonogram picture with a caption. Not how I planned it, but still a blessing yellow heart. Under it, comments flooded in. Congratulations. Proud of you for being honest. Girl, you're so brave. Brave? For what? Sleeping with my fiancé and hijacking my wedding? Meanwhile, I was invisible. No one posted about me. No one asked if I was okay. In their eyes, I was already a chapter that had ended. Even my own mother had shared the post. She added, "Family comes first, even when it's hard." That one broke me. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal itself or how quickly I'd been erased. Like I never existed in their story. Lena sat beside me on the couch and handed me her phone. "Look," she said quietly. "You should see this." It was a screenshot of Emily's messages with Daniel. From before the wedding. Flirty texts. Late-night chats. Photos. Daniel calling her Her replying with heart emojis. Him saying, "Wish I was with you instead." I felt my stomach twist. "This wasn't an accident," I whispered. Lena nodded. "It wasn't. They were doing this behind your back for months. Maybe longer. And the worst part? They were using my money. The joint savings account Daniel and I set up for our future? They'd used it to help Emily pay her rent. I saw the transfer in the receipts. He robbed me. She humiliated me. And no one, not one person, stopped them." I sat there, staring at my own reflection in Lena's dark TV screen. Who was I in this story now? Not the bride. Not the sister. Not the daughter. Just the girl in the background, quiet, forgotten, erased. But something inside me had started to shift. Not loudly. Not with anger or yelling. Just a quiet, burning kind of clarity. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. I wanted to remember who I was before they made me doubt it. Before I let myself be someone who was always understanding. Before I kept the peace while others took pieces of me. I wasn't going to be the shadow in their story anymore. That night, I packed my things and moved into a tiny apartment Lena helped me find. No more childhood house. No more shared accounts. No more watching from the sidelines. The pain was still fresh. The betrayal still raw. But for the first time in a long time, I was starting to write my story again. And this time, I wouldn't be easy to erase. The truth doesn't always scream when it shows up. Sometimes, it walks in quietly, like it's been there the whole time, just waiting for you to notice. That's how it felt the day Lena slid a manila folder across my tiny kitchen table. "You need to see this," she said. Inside were printed screenshots, bank transaction logs, and 2 photos that made my breath catch in my throat. The first was of Daniel and Emily sitting at a rooftop bar, close. Too close. His hand was resting on her thigh. It was dated 2 months before our wedding invitations went out. The second photo? Them at a leasing office. Smiling. Holding a clipboard together. I looked at Lena, confused. "What is this?" She bit her lip. "That lease was signed 2 weeks before your wedding. Your mom co-signed it." I blinked. "A lease for what?" "For their apartment," Lena said flatly. "They were moving in together. Before the wedding even happened." I couldn't speak. "They knew," I whispered. "They all knew." Lena nodded. "They planned it. This wasn't some accident or heat-of-the-moment mistake. This was built over time." I stared at the papers, numb. And then I saw it. A bank statement. From the joint account Daniel and I had opened to help with wedding expenses. A $4,200 transfer to Emily's name. Labeled, "Business Setup." That was my money. Money I earned. Money I saved. Money I thought was going toward our honeymoon. "They used me," I said. "Like a wallet. Like a shield." "And then they dumped you the moment it was convenient," Lena added. I wasn't crying anymore. I was past tears. I was calm. Still. Like the air right before a storm hits. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was theft. This was deception. This was every single line of trust being lit on fire and handed back to me in ashes. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the papers. Lena finally broke the silence. "You don't have to do anything. But if you want to fight back, I'll help you." I looked up at her and nodded slowly. "I'm done being quiet." That night, I called a lawyer. I forwarded everything Lena had gathered, the unauthorized transfers, the co-signed lease, the dates of betrayal. I had been the fool at the altar. The joke everyone watched fall apart. But not anymore. Now I was watching them. I didn't scream. I didn't rage. I didn't even send a warning. Let them laugh. Let them think I was broken. Because they didn't know what was coming. They didn't know that I had finally opened my eyes. And this time, I was seeing everything. I didn't come for them with fire. I came with paperwork. With plans. With silence. The kind of silence that made people nervous. I moved into my new apartment the next day, small, clean, and mine. No memories in the walls. No reminders of Daniel's cologne or Emily's voice echoing from the hallway. Just fresh paint and peace.
First, I closed the joint account.
Then I filed the fraud report with the bank. My lawyer guided me step by step. It turns out, pulling thousands from a shared wedding fund for personal use, especially when the wedding didn't happen, wasn't just cruel. It was illegal. Daniel would be served within the week. But that wasn't the part one was waiting for. What I really wanted was the moment they realized I wasn't crying anymore. That moment came sooner than expected. I heard through a cousin that Emily and Daniel were planning to announce their relationship at a local charity gala. A small event. Family, old friends, donors. The perfect setting to repaint themselves as some unusual love story. I RSVP'd. And I didn't just walk in. I arrived. Red dress.
Hair pulled back.
Lipstick sharp as glass. I didn't hide or shrink or flinch. I smiled. I greeted people. I laughed with old friends. And then I saw them. Emily in a pale pink gown, hand resting on her not-so-visible bump. Daniel in a navy suit, trying to look confident. He spotted me, and his face drained of color. Emily stiffened, but smiled, fake and tight. "You came," she said. "I did," I replied smoothly. "It's good to see you both. Looking cozy." Daniel opened his mouth, but I stepped closer. "By the way," I added, keeping my tone light, "you might want to check your mail. Some legal documents should be arriving any day now." Emily blinked. "What are you talking about?" "Oh," I said, as if I had almost forgotten. "Just a small issue with those bank transfers. And the business lease. And the fraud charges." Her mouth opened, then shut. Daniel looked like he might be sick. I smiled wider. "You'll love the part about court dates." People around us had started to quiet down. I could feel them listening, trying not to look, but definitely looking. And then I dropped the last piece. "Oh," I added casually. "You're still posting pregnancy updates, right? Just wondering, did you tell Mom that the baby's gone?" Silence. So thick, it rang in my ears. Emily's face twisted. That's none of your business." "But it was my wedding," I said softly. "And my fiancé. And my money. So forgive me if I'm finally making it my business." I didn't wait for a reply. I turned, nodded politely to the host, and walked away, head high, heels clicking like war drums. Outside, the night air felt different.
Cool. Light. Free.
I leaned against my car, heart still racing, but not from fear. It was power. Not the power to destroy them. They were already doing that themselves. But the power to walk away with grace and leave them to drown in their own choices. By the next day, the whispers had spread. Family chats blew up. People began asking questions. Daniel's friends backed away. Emily stopped posting. My lawyer confirmed the fraud case was moving forward. And me? I got back to work. I finally launched the online boutique I'd been dreaming of for years. Lena helped with branding. Orders started rolling in. For the first time, I was building something that no one could take from me. Emily and Daniel had tried to erase me, humiliate me. But in doing so, they handed me the loudest microphone of all. The truth. And I was finally using it. I hadn't planned to go. The invitation to my cousin's engagement party sat on my kitchen counter for a week. I stared at it every time I walked by. Part of me wanted to throw it away. Another part wanted to be seen. Not as the girl who got dumped at the altar. Not as the sister of the homewrecker. But as me. So I said yes. Lena helped me pick out the dress. Deep red, sleek, with an open back. Not too loud, but impossible to ignore. When I walked into the hall, all heads turned. There were whispers. Quick glances. The energy shifted. I could feel it. But I didn't shrink. I smiled, held my head high, and greeted people like I hadn't been dragged through hell just weeks ago. And then, I saw her, Emily, standing near the drinks table, hair curled, makeup thick, wearing a white dress. Of course she was. Her bump was gone. Not just small.
Gone.
She spotted me, froze, and then turned away quickly like I hadn't just exposed her in front of a whole room days ago. Daniel wasn't with her.
Surprise, surprise.
I made my rounds, chatting, hugging, sipping water. I stayed calm, even when a few older relatives gave me those sad pity eyes. They didn't know what to say. But honestly, they didn't need to. They were watching. And I was finally ready to let them. During the toast, my cousin thanked the family and smiled my way. And I want to give a special shout out, she said, to someone who's shown more grace under pressure than anyone I know.
People turned toward me.
Some clapped. Some looked confused. I just raised my glass and nodded. Later that night, I caught a familiar voice behind me. Nice dress. I turned to see one of Daniel's old friends, Peter. He gave me a half smile. She's not talking to anyone, he said quietly. No one's really talking to her at all anymore. Emily, I asked, already knowing the answer. He nodded. People finally see it. What she is. What he is. Took long enough. I didn't say anything. Just sipped my drink and looked around. Emily stood alone now. No crowd. No congratulations. Just her, pretending not to notice the cracks forming under her feet. And for the first time I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just peace. She had dug her own grave. I had just stopped covering it with flowers. As I left the party, someone called after me, "You look amazing tonight." I smiled. Because for once, I actually believed it. I hadn't been back to my parents' house since the wedding. But a week after the engagement party, I got a message from my mom. Just one sentence. "Your old photo albums are in the attic. Come get them before we toss them." No hi. No, how are you? No mention of the disaster they helped unfold. Just cold. Like always. I almost ignored it. But something inside me said to go. Not for them, but for me.
I wanted to see it one last time.
The house. The people. The truth. I pulled into the driveway that afternoon. The same mailbox. The same cracked step near the porch. But it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like visiting a place I once escaped from. I rang the doorbell. My mom answered. She looked older than I remembered. Tired. Eyes dull. "You came," she said. "I'm just here for my stuff," I replied. She didn't offer to help. She just stepped aside. Inside, the house was quiet. No sound from the kitchen. No Emily. No Daniel. Just air filled with things unsaid. I climbed into the attic and found the box. Dusty. Heavy. Filled with photos I didn't even remember taking. Me as a kid. Me at school dances. Me holding Emily's hand on her first day of kindergarten. I almost smiled. Almost. When I came down, my mom was waiting in the hallway. "You know," she said softly, "she's still your sister." I stopped mid-step. "And I was still your daughter," I said. "When you chose her." Over and over again. Her face didn't change. Maybe she didn't understand. Maybe she didn't care to. "She's going through a lot," she added. I let out a dry laugh. So was I. You just didn't see it, or didn't want to. Emily appeared behind her then, standing at the edge of the hallway. No makeup. No smile. No bump. Just shadows under her eyes and a look that was somewhere between regret and resentment. We stared at each other for a long second.
She didn't speak.
Neither did I. I didn't know her a word. I set the photo box down by the door, reached inside, and pulled out one frame, a photo of me as a little girl, holding a book, smiling like I owned the world. I tucked it under my arm. Then I turned to my mother. "I'm done being the quiet one," I said. Done making it easy to ignore me. Her mouth opened, but I didn't wait for whatever excuse was coming. I opened the door and stepped out into the sunlight. It was warm.
Clean.
Like a new breath. I walked to my car, got in, and drove off without looking back. Not out of anger, but because I finally understood something. Goodbyes don't have to be loud to change everything. Sometimes the quiet ones are the ones that set you free. 1 year later, I stood in a room filled with people who actually saw me. No masks. No fake smiles. No silent betrayals. Just me, surrounded by soft lights, happy faces, and racks of clothing from my own boutique. The launch party was small, but beautiful. Lena gave the toast, holding a glass of sparkling cider with her usual fire. To women who don't wait for permission, she said. To women who rebuild.
Who rise.
Who rewrite the story when everyone else tried to erase it. Everyone clapped. I didn't. I just stood there and breathed it in.
The air.
The moment. The feeling. This wasn't about revenge anymore. That part of the story had ended long ago. Emily and Daniel? They had faded into background noise. The fraud case was still crawling through the system. He'd likely pay fines. She'd likely lose the apartment. But me? I had built something from scratch, something no one could touch. People ordered from my site every day. My clothes were starting to get featured in small blogs. A customer once messaged me, saying a dress from my shop made her feel like herself again. And I realized that was it. That was the point. This wasn't just about getting back at them. It was about finding the version of me they'd tried to bury. As the party wound down, I caught my reflection in a shop mirror. Same eyes. Same face. But the girl staring back at me? She was no longer quiet. No longer afraid. No longer waiting to be chosen. I whispered to her, not out loud, just in my mind. They tried to rewrite your story, but they didn't realize you're the one holding the pen now. I smiled, because I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning.